we go with Jeremy Scott.
Smoking hot as blazes, dark depths of my secret dungeon here in the remote Pacific Northwest. I am Jeremy Scott, friends, and as I look out my window, I see a sight in which I've never actually lived through in my lifetime before. I mean, sure, we've had wildfires. Wildfires are nothing new, but what is new is the magnitude of the fires this year. And there's a lot of conspiracy that's going around as it relates to this, and so I'd like to address it tonight. We called a special broadcast, a special report to address this tonight because it is so important, in my opinion. There has been rumor and speculation going around that the fires, some of the fires at least, where I'm from here in Oregon, have been intentionally set. Yet, I don't know that that's much of a rumor because you actually have had officials come out and say that most of the fires have been intentionally human-caused fires. So that we know of. But then there's all sorts of speculation that maybe the people who have been rioting or were rioting for 100 days in Portland have now set their sights on a different goal or maybe a different aspect of that same goal and have decided to set some of these fires. Now, I mean, the wildfires here in Oregon are unprecedented. Unlike what we've seen, we're talking about 1 million acres of a fire in 3 days. We don't see that here in Oregon. We maybe get 500,000 in an entire fire season. And we've had fires before that we thought were a really bad deal. Well, this is a really bad deal. I mean, as I look outside, and we'll put up some pictures, hopefully, tonight that you can see what it's like. I mean, right now, it looks like it is just an incredibly foggy day. But in the past few days, it has looked brownish, orangish. Looking at the sun and the moon, it just looks on fire. I mean, just looking at it in the sky, and it's because much of the state is on fire. Hundreds of thousands of people have been evacuated. Hundreds of thousands of more are guarding their homes with water buckets and hoses and trying to protect their property and their neighbor's property. And so it is a very, very dire situation. A very dire situation, in fact. But now we have more fuel being added to the fire, which may not be substantiated. I've seen some videos out there. I've seen videos that have gotten taken down as well of people who said that they have seen people setting these fires. And, you know, there is some sort of danger when you discuss terrorism, when you discuss acts of terror, when you discuss arson, and when you call people out for certain things. I think it's very important that we do not throw out allegations that are unsubstantiated. That is very, very important here. I mean, we have a blazing inferno as it is, with a variety of issues going on in this country, and specifically here in my state and my city. We don't need to add more fuel to the fire. I mean, it's a blazing inferno. There's just no reason that we need to make it any worse. It's bad enough. If there are people who are out there setting fires, who are part of an organized group, I think it's important that that information is known. But I think it's also important that if it's not found that this is any sort of organized effort, and that these people aren't affiliated with one sort of group or another, then we can't be going around throwing out those accusations either, because that's very harmful. And it's a risky situation. It's a life and death situation. You start doing that, and nobody deserves to die or needs to die, but needless, unsubstantiated claims cause that. We don't need that. We don't need it anymore. We're already hurting enough. We're trying to heal, and it just seems like there's one more wound on top of the next that we're dealing with here. What a year. I mean, we go through COVID-19, everybody's stuck at home, and then George Floyd gets killed by police, and all hell breaks loose literally in this country. And so then it just it seemingly, I guess, has stopped or died down, and now the focus is elsewhere. I mean, we don't have rain yet. We're hoping for rain that can kind of stop these fires, really. But then, of course, that brings on a new threat. You start introducing the threat of slides. So then we're talking about, natural disasters here. Are these claims that Antifa, that these terrorist organizations are setting these fires? We've got a report that we want to play here that is going to address just that. This courtesy of KGW News, by the way, in Portland, Oregon.
We have seen this claim about Antifa starting these wildfires everywhere. Now, police departments are trying to dispel the rumors, putting out their own posts saying it's just not true. And now, instead of helping people who need it, 911 dispatchers are getting inundated with calls about Antifa. The rumors about what or who may have started the historic wildfires in Oregon started almost immediately. Then social media posts and far-right websites like Law Enforcement Today pushed the false theory that Antifa was behind the fires. Here are just a few of the emails we received in 24 hours. Brian M. asks, can you look into if Antifa is starting these fires? I think it's Russian bots or right-wing groups spreading rumors. Jerry H. said, my friend told me that several of these fires have been started by Antifa people. Can you prove that is right or wrong? Emily asked on Twitter, can you verify? I'm hearing lots of talk about arson in many places. According to several Oregon law enforcement agencies, the claim that Antifa started the wildfires is false. The Medford Police Department put out this alert about a made-up graphic and article. The police department said, this is a made-up graphic and story. We did not arrest this person for arson, nor anyone affiliated with Antifa or Proud Boys, as we've heard throughout the day. Also, no confirmed gatherings of Antifa, which has also been reported.
These rumors going on that are completely false about mass arrests going on can really take our time away from the investigation, and it also leads people to think something happened when it hasn't.
And the Douglas County Sheriff's Office posted this, begging people to stop spreading rumors. The Post said their 911 dispatchers are being overrun with requests for information and inquiries on an untrue rumor that 6 Antifa members have been arrested for setting fires in Douglas County, Oregon. Again, according to several law enforcement agencies, we can verify the claim that Antifa started the wildfires is false. We do know officials are investigating possible arson cases across the state, including the Almeda fire. So some of the fires may be tied to people starting them. But officials say the claim that this was a plan by Antifa is not true.
So the authorities are saying that there's no evidence to support some of these claims. In that report, you also heard that there are people who are going around setting fires, but that they're unable to confirm that it is organized. It seems to be it's organized in some fashion. Either a lot of people with the same idea, maybe inspired by some sort of online message board or community, or I guess it's possible that by coincidence, all of these people are acting on their own. Do this. Open up Google here and just type in arson arrests, and you will see, I mean, at least here locally, I see of, several stories here of people who have been arrested and who've been charged with arson for basically setting things on fire, trying to, it appears, to spread larger fires. Now, arson is a crime that goes back a long time. There are firebugs who inadvertently and intentionally cause fires year after year. There was a really bad fire here a couple of years ago in Oregon that was started by someone who just thought it would be a cool idea to throw fireworks. And, in the past couple of days, we've seen reports of people trying to start fires with fireworks, which, is some of the same tools that some of these rioters or protesters, whatever you want to call them, were using in some of the demonstrations or protests or riots or whatever you want to call them, involving police, where they were seen throwing and lighting fireworks and directing them at officers. So we have a situation where there are people who are being arrested for setting these fires. There are people who have put out videos and then deleted videos just for their own safety because they give out too much personal information. They don't want to be targeted. I mean, it's a very dangerous, touchy subject. And we're also going to be talking about tonight about some of the other ways that these fires, why they're so bad, why that's the reason. And it doesn't have anything to do with Antifa. It doesn't have anything to do with terrorism. These could be intentionally set by our own government, our own military, for a variety of reasons. We know about direct energy weapons. There's been videos of these Spitfire drones that have been setting fires. Whether they don't look like fires that are supposed to contain anything. They look like fires to me that are supposed to spread stuff. And so there's been video out there. It's very hard to independently verify whether or not these videos are current, whether they are from now or whether they're from before. So you have to be careful with that. Not every video you see now is actually from now. It could have been from years previous. It could have been leaked. You never know. You have to be careful about that stuff. So we don't know exactly how all of these fires are being set. If they were through direct energy weapons, it would be something that would just be like instantaneous. A laser would basically, you turn it on and it would set a fire in its path, and that would be it. You would basically see probably a flash of light and you would see the area catch on fire. There's a variety of reasons why we could be having these fires here in Oregon and in California. I know in California, they have bad wildfires year after year after year. I mean, it's nothing new. It's kind of like how there are tornadoes and there's hurricanes every year, and then there's wildfires in California. And I've always thought, unless I absolutely have to, for work or other purposes, be in California, I don't know that I would want to be, other than just to visit there, because the threat of wildfire is so severe. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to lose everything. And especially, the threat of that year after year after year, it's just, I can't handle all of that anxiety, right? When I heard of the campfire, which was a very ironic name, the campfire, last year in California, and some of the claims that were going around that it was started by direct energy weapons, I wondered, well, is that possible? Or is this just another fire season in California, and this year it's particularly bad? Could it have been a tinderbox, and then you get the right combination of conditions, the ripe conditions, and, it all blows up out of proportion? Possible? Yeah, it's possible that it could just be the worst fire season ever. It's possible, though, that a direct energy weapon could have started the fires. And, I never really, honestly, thought much about it last year because of the fact that, well, that's California, exactly what I said before, and I just thought it was another fire season. But knowing what we know now about that, and knowing what we're going through now, and just looking outside my window and wondering, when can I open up my windows? I mean, we were supposed to have a spell of 90-degree days. I guess the only good thing about it is now the temperature's only 60, 70 degrees? But you can't open the windows because it smells like a campfire. And, that comes into the house, it gets on your clothes, it stains the walls, everything you own smells like it. We can't be having that go on. And there was some particularly interesting information that came out from a YouTuber from the channel Dutchsince, Dutchsince, that was showing some illustrations of a laser beam and of a direct energy weapon, particularly between California and Oregon. It says a direct energy weapon caught on a live stream going right into a fire in California. So it could have come from Oregon to California or from California to Oregon, because it ended up in the Malheur area up in the National Refuge. And right after this, this laser beam goes through, this could have been a direct energy weapon. People who know more about this than I say it's a direct energy weapon. There was this fire that ignited, right after this thing came through. On at least 2 evenings, which would have been the 8th and the 9th, Tuesday and Wednesday nights, that's what they say happened, is that a direct energy weapon started these fires. And so there's the information. We put up the link as well. You can check that out. And we're going to be talking about that tonight with a very special guest who I'm really thrilled to have on the program tonight by the name of Elana Freeland, who has researched a whole bunch of stuff, including, the deep state and geoengineering and MK Ultra and electromagnetic weapons, like what we're talking about here, chemtrails and HAARP. And she's written a couple of books as well, including Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. And, of course, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And we're going to talk about the fires, the possibilities that they could have been set by terrorists, that they could have been set by direct energy weapons, and is there any evidence on either side to really support these claims? Elana Freeland will be my guest tonight. It's a special report of Into the Parabnormal. Where there's smoke, there is fire. I'm Jeremy Scott from the scorching, burning, hot blazes of my dungeon here in the Pacific Northwest. Into the Parabnormal, our Sunday special report continues right after this.
We're streaming 24/7 on the Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live and at paranormalradio.com.
Have you noticed that well-known and controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored on the internet by corporate and political interests? Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis here with Ground Zero Radio, and in order to counter against the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digitalized playground. It's called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring videos, movies, audio clips, archive shows, ebooks, documents, and much, much more. Our news aggregator, Nucifer, provides current news relating to many of the topics we cover. We'll also be hosting the Ground Zero friendly podcasts like Into the Parabnormal with Jeremy Scott and The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. Aftermath is a social media platform along with a chat room to interact with many of our listeners. Mobile apps for Android and Apple will soon be available at Aftermath.media. The monthly subscription to Aftermath.media is $9.99 a month. This includes exclusive access to the library of archived Ground Zero podcasts and shows. If you're interested in having access to our podcast, it's only $4.99 a month. Thanks for supporting Ground Zero by subscribing to Aftermath.media. Sign up today, Aftermath.media. That's Aftermath.media.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Into the paranormal crossover.
Parabnormal News, I'm Brad Bernards. Wormholes are a popular feature in science fiction that means through which spacecraft can achieve faster than light travel, and while the general theory of relativity forbids the existence of traversable wormholes, recent research has shown that they are actually possible within the domain of quantum physics. The only downsides are that they would actually take longer to travel than normal space or likely be microscopic. In a new study performed by a pair of Ivy League scientists, the existence of physics beyond the standard model could mean that there are wormholes out there that are not only large enough to be traversable, but entirely safe for human travelers looking to get from point A to point B. The study, titled Humanity Traversable Wormholes, was conducted by Juan Maldacena and Alexei Millikin, a graduate of astrophysics student at Princeton University. 80-year-old lung cancer survivor and California State University Fullerton physics professor James Woodward has an out-of-this-world idea to allow spacecraft to travel to neighboring star systems, tiny crystals that vibrate tens of thousands of times per second when an electric current is applied.
You don't have to believe in some speculative unified field theory or some magical ideas about this or that or the other thing. It's all just straightforward physics.
That's courtesy Space Studies Institute. Futurism.com reports his invention, dubbed the Mach Effect Gravitational Assist Drive, makes the extraordinary promise of a propulsion system that relies on nothing but a source of electricity. No heavy combustion fuel necessary, as Wired reports in a fascinating new feature. There's more news at parabnormalradio.com. I'm Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
We have seen this claim about Antifa starting these wildfires.
We'd like to address a rumor that's making the rounds on social media that Antifa has been deliberately starting wildfires.
These rumors going on that are completely false about mass arrests going on leads people to think something happened when it hasn't.
Hundreds of thousands of people under some form of evacuation order.
Clackamas County deputy has been put on leave for comments caught on video falsely saying that anti-fascist activists were behind starting the fires.
Antifa okay,
right,
are out causing hell.
Right.
And there's a lot of lives at stake, and there's a lot of people's property at stake because these guys got some vendetta.
We have received information on social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
Searching for the truth, asking the hard questions as we ponder what could be. You're traveling into the paranormal.
Kind of feels like a suicide mission or a death squad or I don't know, maybe a civil war. Tonight it's a special report. Where there's smoke, there is fire. And, you know, there's a variety of reasons that we could be going through the hell on earth that it appears that we are going through right now. Because as I look at my window, it is just absolutely disgusting. You can't open the windows. It's hot as blazes inside because of that. Poor me. I haven't lost my home. I haven't lost my livelihood. I mean, who am I? I feel so bad for folks who don't have anything to do with this. They're right down the middle of this war. They just want everybody to get along. They don't want enemies. They don't want foes. They want everybody to be friends. Everybody get along. Why can't we just all get along? Very good question, I think. Not just because I came up with it. So here we are, where it appears that, there's people on every side of the aisle going back and forth making allegations that are just adding more fuel to the fire, and, it's becoming a blazing inferno. What started as a small fire kept smoldering, and then got rekindled, and now we have a blazing inferno on our hands. So honored to have tonight on the program here on our special report, Elana Freeland, who, as I mentioned, is authored 2 great books and talks about a lot of these subjects, including directed energy weapons. She has an undergraduate degree in creative writing, a second major in biology, a Master of Arts degree, and she joins us tonight from the state of Washington. Elana, how are you tonight? And welcome to the program.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you here. Are you safe and sound there in Washington? What's it like where you're at?
It's just overcast and it's smoky. Not too bad. Not as bad as it was yesterday.
So you are seeing some improvement up there. That is good news. What's your take on the state of the wildfire season here in the Pacific Northwest?
For me, because I write books on geoengineering, this is definitely geoengineered. This is not a wildfire. This is a planned and executed fire, a series of them. It's done from space and from careful preparation of the environment to kindle and go up in flames to destroy many thousands, millions of acres.
Is this who's involved here? Who's pulling the strings on this?
The deep state would be the overarching answer to that. And regarding the deep state, I've been following them since John Kennedy's assassination in a way, but at least 40 years I've been researching and really taking copious notes and looking at patterns, reading between the lines in reports of our controlled Mockingbird mainstream media. And I know how they work. I know how they think. And they are the ones, unfortunately, who have their finger on the trigger. And that would be all the way to NASA. That would be any of the agencies, including the NGA, which is the National Geospatial Surveillance Agency. All of these agencies are unfortunately controlled by the deep state. And for me, my hope is that this will be changed through this basically civil war that we're undergoing now with the Trump forces versus the deep state forces. That's how I perceive it. So when I watch the fire, for me, what I'm really interested in, because now I'm finishing the third book on geoengineering, and this one has to do with synthetic biology and transhumanism, but involved in that very, very centrally is nanotechnology and how these fires are being, how these homes and acreage are being immolated is basically, so triggered perhaps by a laser, but what's burning and what's making things melt, making iron melt, making the fire so hot that firemen have never experienced this before is the nanotechnology.
How is that being used?
First of all, we've had 20 years of geoengineering, and it's been entirely hidden. It's been a national security write-off as far as the public learning anything real about it. It's been called climate change, carbons, global warming, and many, many cover stories about that. And yet, really, what it is weaponizing of the environment to carry out geoengineering operations, of which there are 7. And I did send those to you, but they're very important. So at some time during the show, we should go through those a bit. But regarding how the nanos got where they are, which is deeply embedded in the soil, in trees, everything you can possibly imagine. I mean, we're talking 20 years of trillions and trillions of nano-sized particles, aluminum, barium, strontium, chromium, lithium, all of these things dropped in the upper atmosphere by jets, drones, and sounding rockets come earthward, those that don't end up circling the planet around the equator in what I have on the cover of my second book, which is making the Earth look like Saturn with rings. these nanos, they get in the soil. Not only do they destroy the ability to grow really healthy food, but they are in there and can be remotely communicated with. I mean, because they're primarily run by nanobots. And nanobots are nanorobots. They're like computerized, tiny. And for those who don't know what a nano size is 1/1000th of a meter. So no way can you see these with the naked eye. But it is well known in the nanomaterials world that nanotechnology is the name of the game now for all the way from our processed foods to our clothing to all the things needed by the military in order to keep the atmosphere ionized for all of the wireless operations that are going on. I mean, when I talk about this and write about it, I think people just can't believe how developed it is, but it's, how that is done in America. You just keep people occupied, you keep them in debt, keep them entertained, and pretty soon you've got the entire environment weaponized and ready to ignite with hardly any effort. So that is how I look at what's going on. And in this next book, I did in the last book, but in this book, I'm going to go a little further, deeper into it, because each book I write, I learn more. I learn much more. I'm going to have a chapter on the fires, how they're done, exactly what it means, yes, materially, but primarily driving people out of their homes into smart cities where they can really be made to operate and live in lockstep. So, it's all one big picture is what I'm saying, Jeremy, but there are many components to the picture that have taken me, well, I've been in this movement now 10 years. So it's taken me several years, always building on what I just wrote about, and suddenly a whole new level is exposed as to how this is really, how they're bringing transhumanism on and at the same time recovering to the global elite the land, the domination of our parks, of all the things that we have grown accustomed to in this wonderful Bill of Rights land. Slowly, it's all being taken at one step at a time. And I think now we're beginning to feel through this sort of personality conflict, which is way more than a personality conflict, between the present sitting president and the forces that have been ruling this nation since Kennedy's assassination, and the antagonism between the two, because of certainly the deep state doesn't want to give up all the goodies that it's been able to get and live off of, and squeezing us in every way possible. We're now beginning to feel it, and for that I'm happy. I know that we all want to be friends and, we want everything to be nice, but hey, that's not how things work here. You have to really fight to keep democratic principles, to keep a quality of life where you're human and you're not run by machines. There are so many things that we have let go in this country, and thinking that our leaders and those that we elect will take care of us. I don't know how people could possibly think that. I haven't thought that for decades, because I have watched criminality over and over and over again, and no real presidents, all being run by money. And now at last we have a struggle going on. And I have hopes that even despite all the loss that people are going to have, like you were saying, jobs, their homes, the quality of life that we have.
As if they didn't lose it through COVID first.
Exactly. And then, of course, to me, that's yet another deep state operation. But what's the good news to me is, and you can tell I'm a real warrior. I'm a struggler. I'm not interested in feeling good if it means that I'm going to pay my freedom for that. No way. I'm hopeful that America is at last waking up to what has been allowed to get its tentacles into this nation since Kennedy's assassination. And now it's time for us to push back. It's time to push back. And, I'm very excited about that aspect, despite all the fires. Some of them, I think what they're doing, just to be some of what I've observed in these Northwest states, Oregon and Washington, it appears to me that it's the primary target is, of course, California. It has been for 9 years of drought. They have carefully prepared it for all the fires, the 2017, the 2018, 2019, and now 2020. So to me, they run the seasons, they run the weather, they're running the fire season and making it all look like, oh, this is just global warming. And yet, I know too much about the technology to believe that this is from arsonists. I know those rumors are passing, and they might be using arsonists in some of the minor areas. That's very possible. But primarily, this is a technological event that is being perpetrated from space and from having prepared the earth, the ground in the areas that are being burned after years and years of dropping nanoparticles there.
Alana, this may be the $1 million question. Who are the deep state, and who's funding them?
Well, I think probably most people can see that now. I mean, the one good thing that's come out of the coronavirus drama is that, I don't know about your email, but mine and the Facebook sites I have are just inundated by people doing their own research, which is great. And a lot of them are the usual, the Bill Gates of the world, the George Soroses of the world, along with the I think Catherine Austin Fitts recently said that at one point, the American budget was missing $21 trillion, which I think was up the ante to $66 trillion. So where's the money coming from? There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money, especially now that it appears that the Democratic Party, or at least the DNC, has been completely infiltrated and taken over by rogue extreme elements, and there's a lot of money there. So I don't think that's a question. Money seems very, very easy, like picking it off a tree. But as far as who, there are many who's. The question is, how are all those who's being held together to keep pushing through to create one event after another to bring a coup about over the United States of America and to push it into another form rather than the form it's been following. That, I would say, has to be the pedophilia that is the glue holding them together through blackmail and the stress of having to obey distant masters in order to have your career, in order to keep your family alive, in order to have all those goodies that you're accustomed to having. I think the question for me is not who. There are so many who's, but as far as the geoengineering goes, that you have to look to the military industrial intelligence complex. And that entails at least a third to a half of the military are deep state. And it would have to mean it is the ones that Eisenhower warned us about on his way out of office in 1961. And that would be Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, TR3, L3, all the usual suspects of the 10 most powerful military contractors, weapons producers, war producers in the world. And they are the ones that I primarily name in my books and discuss.
So you're saying that this is definitely geoengineered, but by starting these rumors, they're wanting us to believe that it's arson when it's not arson. They're starting it with these laser beams, and they're starting it via these, Spitfire drones.
Exactly, and they may be using a few arsonists. I mean, that's very possible, especially up here in the Northwest, but not in California, not at all. And the whole thing is geoengineered, because maybe this would be a good time, Jeremy, for us to go through that little list I sent you. Because
is that available on your website, by the way?
Yeah. And the reason it's important is, I don't know if people have noticed, but you hardly ever see anything on geoengineering. And if you do see something, it's usually David Keith, who is a geoengineer and is in the back pocket of Bill Gates. He'll trot out and say, well, solar radiation management, well, we're going to have to do this. It's too bad. But, in order to stop the global warming, we're going to have to pull out some stops here and fly some chemicals up there that you may not like, and yet really geoengineering is a vast undertaking with 7 major operations that are being run right under our noses, but we don't know what we're looking at because it's just unfathomable to people that you could weaponize an entire environment and run experiments in the sky that look to some people like UFOs. Some people think it's aliens. Some people think, the world's coming apart, whatever. But there are 7 basic operations. So I think I'll just run through those relatively quickly, and then we can see where we want to look, because I know where I'm looking now for this last book that I'm writing on this. Okay, so it starts with weather engineering, and that's what I was pursuing first, is how do they do that? So that began with HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, the ionospheric heater up in Gakona, Alaska, the most powerful ionospheric heater at that point. And what they were doing is setting up phased array antennas on acreage in Alaska and pointing it toward the ionosphere. And the ionosphere is above us, it starts at about 12 miles above us and goes up to, I can't remember, 22, 30 miles. And the ionosphere it surrounds the planet, and it's really an energy source. And what they wanted to do was to bring some of that energy down here to use in our atmosphere. And so HAARP was the means by which they were able to do that, by steering and targeting an area of the ionosphere, not enough to burst the ionosphere. That would be disastrous because it's like a big bubble. But, its primary purpose has, along with the magnetosphere, has been to protect us from solar flares and things coming from the sun, because our sun is very, very hot and a tremendous energy source for us, as you all know. So HAARP was a success in that it was able to penetrate the ionosphere, stimulate electrons to leave their atoms and be ionized, to be charged, and then for them to be brought down to the Earth so that there's like a stream of ions that the Earth now can have.
Right, hold that thought. My guest is Elana Freeland, and she's going through the 7 geoengineering operations going on under the auspices of the military doctrine of full spectrum dominance. And we'll continue with her right after this. Our special report tonight: where there's smoke, there is fire.
Get the Tea is the #1 cleansing tea in America. We cleanse you with organic ingredients, and when used daily, you can increase your energy. Cleanse from intruders that set up camp in your colon. Cleanse your colon and feel the difference. Colon cleanses can be uncomfortable. Not Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea is mild yet truly effective. Cleanse your insides every day. Easy to make, easy to use, and feel the results. Are you sold? Okay, then here's how to order. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Look for our specials on the front page. Get the Tea also carries top-rated supplements for those who care about their health naturally. Again, log on to getthetea.com and feel the results. And for those of you that arm yourself with information, come to our webinar every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can sign up at getthetea.com.
What you believe might not be. Step into the zone of the vast unknown. UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, conspiracies and cover-ups. Into the paranormal we go.
There's no topic too deep for this show, especially when it leads into the paranormal.
My guest is Elana Freeland. It's a special report: where there's smoke, there's fire. And we're talking about geoengineering, and it's Elana's belief that there is geoengineering at play here. And she was going down the 7 geoengineering operations, starting with the weather engineering. So we got lots of time now. Elana, back to you, please.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm on the very first operation, which is in a way, the most important, because the weather engineering is a done deal. Okay, so all people ask me, is all the weather engineered? To my knowledge, it is. It's all engineered. And it's not really my belief. I think if you look at the books I write that are over 600 and 700 footnotes where I prove everything, you can see that even on in the internet, this is a national security issue, this whole thing about geoengineering. And it's presented very differently from how expansive it truly is, which is what this list is about. And that has to be understood, that, you won't see the smoking gun necessarily. The body from the room is removed, but Sherlock Holmes comes in, looks at all the details, figures it all out, and proves that this is truly how it happened. And that's how I look at this. It is not impossible to know from a distance if you know what you're looking for and you can contextualize what you find. And that's where I come in. So is all the weather engineered? Yes, it is. To the best of my knowledge, it is. The only real weather arises still where it has always on the South Pacific. There are moisture systems that arise there. And as soon as they arise, the U.S. Navy and merchant fleets And all those in touch with the people in Colorado Springs and other places are on the move to grab that weather and produce the weather that they want it to be. They have control now over the jet stream. There's actually concern that the jet stream is fragmented from all the abuse that it has suffered at the hands of geoengineers. So what does the weather do? Controlling the weather is like a wet dream of every military that has ever existed for military operations. In this case, I would say that the weather is primarily a blackmail instrument, certainly against places like Iran, where they can create drought in Iran and destroy their food crops. I mean, consider the importance of food. And they can bring floods that flood people out. Tornadoes can wreak havoc in the Midwest of the United States and the South Midwest. You see my point. So the other thing the weather engineering and controlling the weather does is weather itself, especially lightning storms, big storms with lots of lightning and thunder, that is all electrical, and that can induce more energy in our ionized atmosphere for more operations that are wireless. So weather plays a very, very big role in the entire list that I'm about to read. All right, what's going on in the sky that is ionized, the sky I'm looking at right now here in the Pacific Northwest, which is sort of gray and has smoke in it from fires and lots of chemicals. I know they're there. I can't see them, but I know they're there. Chemical and electromagnetic operations are very pivotal. And that has to do with the jets that are laying not contrails anymore, but they're chemical trails. And that's easily proven by the chemical signatures in the trails. And the electromagnetic operations, where now we're seeing lightning coming up from the earth. Wow, not down to the earth only, but up from the earth. So there's a lot of experiments going on because the atmosphere is ionized. It is electrified. It's a battery. It's an antenna. Thanks to the work of the ionospheric heaters that are now not as big as HAARP, but they're mobile and they're all over the earth, everywhere you could possibly imagine. We now have these ionospheric heaters that are running our Truman Show that we're locked into here. So then the third operation, beyond the chemical electromagnetic, is the planetary geophysical one. And that is what I would vote for that one for the fires. Obviously, we've all heard the rumor that what is wanted in California is a big new train system. And so that land is being cleared, and it's being cleared by these devastating fires that are driving people out into the smart cities, where they will be able to be controlled there by varying technologies in the smart cities. The geophysical, I think, again, of things like the Katrina. Remember Hurricane Katrina years ago, 2005? How then the mouth of the Mississippi River, which was an international port, was able to be rebuilt because all the poor people were forced out by that hurricane, and it's been all redone. And the same thing happened with Hurricane Sandy in New York, with the ports of New York and New Jersey. Those ports are being rebuilt now that all the people have been forced out. So you see how planetary geophysical can work. The fourth operation is directed energy weapons. Now, in a way, that's going to have to be, it's like they used to call directed energy weapons non-lethal weapons until they could hear the laughter, the dark laughter of all the people who realized that they were not really non-lethal. They could kill just like any other weapon. It's just that it wasn't a bullet. It was energy. It was all kinds of energy, some ionized, some non-ionized, but all of it was about weaponizing. So directed energy weapons go all the way from real weapons of particle beam weapons in space to the targeting of individuals in their homes by electromagnetic weapons that get inside their heads with V2K and torture them, called no-touch torture. So directed energy weapons, yes, the geoengineering is involved in that as well. Fifth operation, surveillance and neural weapons. This sort of segues from the directed energy. We know about surveillance. We tend to think that means that our license plates are being read and our phones are being listened to and that sort of thing. But the surveillance goes far beyond that, and really is very connected to the neural weapons that are being used to turn us into cyborgs. In the advent of transhumanism. The next one is connected to that one. They're all connected from here on out. The digital biology, nanotechnology, and transhumanism, all of these work together. Digital biology, what do I mean by that? I think we saw that in Wuhan. I think we saw how that was the city in China which had been converted to a very strong 5G millimeter wave environment. And what happened was that kind of millimeter wave radio frequency, microwave frequency, was really the means by which a virus could be sent to a population, to even a few individuals. If the person on the laptop remotely thousands of miles away, perhaps even from a satellite algorithm, decided that the virus would be projected in that area or that into that person. That's what digital means. We're moving from molecular biology, where you would really need to be, you would have something contagious. You would be around someone and they would breathe on you, or they would touch your food or something like that. That's all molecular biology. What they're heading toward is digital biology, where they have the signatures of various viruses that have been changed in order to make them into weapons that can be sent in directions they want them sent in the quantity they want. So this idea of the frequency of viruses, the frequency of bacteria, this is the name of the game now. And it's a very serious game, because our entire environment is now wireless. And we love the convenience, we love the comfort, we love our cell phones. By the way, I don't own one. We love our TVs. By the way, I don't own one. And all of these convenience items are what the military calls dual use, which means they are weaponized. They can be used by the military for military operations, or they can be used civilian-wise. And this is what we need to get through our heads now, is the military has been absolutely changed since the 1990s, when it underwent what it calls the RMA, the Revolution in Military Affairs. So between the technology and the RMA, we have a different relationship with the military. The enemies now are not abroad necessarily. They are actually us, like Pogo said many years ago. I have seen the enemy, and it is us. And so our environment has been armed. And we need to get this through our heads, that we're in a different relationship now, not only with our military, but with our environment. the final, and this one's the most fun one, I guess, that many people think of, the seventh operation is the cloaking and obscuration of exotic propulsion craft in the plasma clouds that you probably think are moisture particulate clouds, but are really plasma clouds because they're ionized. We now have, there's a lot of craft, triangular craft and other craft that I don't know what to think of that are able to produce their own plasma cover. And at the same time, that seventh operation also includes, in my mind, this is just my little system, the detection of that the clouds, it will help the military and astronomers, whoever, astrophysicists, to detect exotic plasma life forms, because that is another thing that is going on. Our life forms, as the environment is more plasma cloaked itself, more infused with plasma in our cloud cover, in our skies, in the air we breathe. All of this has to do also with seeing, kind of not into quantum realms exactly, but a very different kind of reality, because we are changing the atmosphere, and that means then we have this amazing electromagnetic technology. Virtual reality is just a step away. The internet becoming part of the air that in front of us, so that we are all living in the internet, is just ahead of us. The transhumanist idea of converting people to cyborgs so that we can send them to Mars and they'll be able to talk with entities that they encounter there, or whatever the reason is for the cyborgization of the human being that has been here for millions of years, evolving in its own time, evolving with the help of nature. A big change now is being pushed, and I think you can all feel it now. And this latest COVID thing really gave you a sense of the push going on, and we need to really think about that. We need to think about what it means to be human, and is it valuable to us? It is very valuable to me. I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner, have been for many years. And I'm fighting hard to remind people that their humanity is not necessarily fully in their hands anymore, and that we need to take this to heart and decide on our own actions. Because I personally, Jeremy, don't believe that anyone is here on the planet at this time, this incredibly pivotal time, this exciting time to be alive. No one is here by accident. Everyone chose to be here. And so the next question is, what are you choosing to do with the time you have chosen to live in? Because I think everybody comes with something to do, not just to be a couch potato, not just to get run over by a bus, but really to take hold of some of this incredible drama unfolding before our eyes, and to decide on a course of action for your own lives, for the lives of your children, for the lives of the future of humanity.
When they shoot these lasers, are they doing so just strictly from space, or are they doing so on the ground as well?
Oh, I think that all I see in the video footage that I have seen, and I've seen quite a bit through the fires of the last 4 years, all I see is a blue beam coming from space. And I suppose I would have to think that it could be a drone. I don't know how far up that beam goes. I don't know if it certainly could come from satellite. That's no problem. Laser systems are all over the place. But primarily it's to ignite. And if we didn't have something igniting the fires, then there wouldn't be a fire. But that's the ignition setup, and I think that if they needed to, they used to use the Starfire lasers, which is a line running north and south on military bases, not exactly along the coast, but certainly in the western United States in a relatively straight line going from south to north.
Can you remind us what happened there in 1990 when it comes to the revolution in military affairs and direct energy weapons?
Yeah. Basically, just in a simple way, the revolution in military affairs converted the military from thinking of war as something along the lines of field action, of many soldiers being out in the field or in the air, and many being killed in action like that, to what is known as asymmetric warfare, which means the easiest way is to think of all the special forces teams now that are sent all over the place for all sorts of actions, so that really Congress need not be involved in the decision for warfare. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it just, one war just becomes another, at least up through the Obama administration. The idea being that you could go in a secret, silent action of a few with the technology that we now have, and we even had in the 90s, and win things over with a disinformation cover story for so that there is no real war. Even when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, that was the type of war being run, was not large actions, but small teams being sent out, and many, many cover stories for what was really going on. Most of it was technological. There were probably many crimes against humanity that went on in those countries through the weapons that they were experimenting with. That's one of the reasons that America has gone to war, is to experiment with the latest weapons from the military-industrial intelligence complex. And the other one I want to bring up, which is probably more problematical for people, is that the influence of people like Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino on the military in the 90s. He had served in Vietnam. He was involved in the Phoenix program, which certainly was crimes against humanity. He was a practicing Satanist. He was the high priest of the Temple of Set. He had a tremendous influence on the military in the 90s. I hope someone writes a book about that someday, though I don't think it'll be me.
Can this be done remotely as well, so you don't have to set the fires literally on site?
No, they are. They're all remote. They're not setting them on site. No, all they're using is the nanobots that they have laid, that have come down from the upper atmosphere, that were laid by jets over the last 20 years, and completely... remember when California has had 9 years of drought, but do you remember when it had a flood a year or maybe two ago? It was flooded, but the reason it was flooded is because the earth was so impacted from years and years of drought, not to mention all the nanotech that was in it.
All right, hold that thought. Elana Freeland, my guest, and we'll be back with her. Special report: where there's smoke, there is fire, on Into the Parabnormal this Sunday night. I'm Jeremy Scott.
Stream us on your favorite apps from anywhere in the world, anytime, day or night. Into the Parabnormal with Jeremy Scott.
Attention homeowners, spending more time around your house means you're putting more stress on major appliances that keep your home running. Like many Americans, a major breakdown could be very costly during these uncertain times. AC unit goes, that's $4,500. Water heater breaks, $1,500. When you own a home, it's always something. If you have a home warranty, those repairs could cost you nothing. A Home Service Club warranty pays for the repair or replacement of your home appliances and systems when they break down, even from normal wear and tear. For about $1 a day, you can cover your home appliances and systems. It's not a question of if they'll break down, it's when. If you call now, you'll get your first month free and $75 off your first year. Make home appliance repairs one less thing to worry about. Call 800-249-8901 now for your free quote, free first month, and $75 off your first year. 800-249-8901 now. That's 800-249-8901. Again, 800-249-8901.
Parabnormal News, I'm Brad Bernards. Imagine the energy of 8 suns released in an instant. The BBC reports this is the gravitational shock wave that spread out from the biggest merger yet observed between 2 black holes. Here's Jess McIver, assistant professor at the University of British Columbia.
Gravitational waves, we're just now really starting to see what's out there in the darkness of deep space.
That's courtesy Global News. The signal from this event traveled for some 7 billion years to reach Earth, but was still sufficiently strong to rattle laser detectors in the US and Italy in May.
It truly is incomprehensible. There is nothing humanity can do that even remotely approaches the amount of energy we're talking about here.
Professor Paul Delaney, York University, courtesy Global News. Researchers say the colliding black holes produced a single entity with a mass 142 times that of our sun. But this new observation inaugurates a novel class of so-called intermediate-sized black holes in the range of 100 to 1,000 sun masses. Dark matter accounts for some of the universe's greatest mysteries. It too generates a seemingly never-ending list of unanswered questions. From Inverse.com, scientists believe dark matter makes up around 80% of the universe, yet despite this abundance, it has never been successfully detected. Its presence can only be inferred from its gravitational pull rather than any kind of visual evidence in the cosmos. But by building a virtual universe, scientists were able to zoom in on clumps of dark matter known as dark matter halos. The experiment is detailed in a study published Wednesday in the journal Nature. There's more news at parabnormalradio.com. I'm Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
God, what is going on here? Directed energy weapons.
Ooh, that is hot, hot, hot. Oh my God. I can feel it.
You will see a direct energy weapon being used.
There's lasers or some sort of weapon doing that. Look how straight those lines are. Come on, people, there's something going on here.
Between twilight and the witching hour, there's a place we call Into the Parabnormal.
I'm Jeremy Scott. My guest tonight is Elana Freeland, and her website is elanafreeland.com, and she's got many great books. I suggest you check them out. Been talking tonight about whether or not these fires were intentionally set, whether they were done by acts of arson, by terrorism, by directed energy weapons, and by the means for administering the torch, literally. And so, Elana, here in our final segment, I kind of want you direct us down the finish line, if you would be so kind.
Yes, I would like to talk about something we haven't talked about yet, which I think is very important for your listeners to hear, and it verges on the paranormal, which is if I return to my little list, when I mentioned that digital biology, nanotechnology, and transhumanism all kind of go together. What I haven't stressed enough is that, yes, the fires have the nanotechnology pounded into the earth after years of drought, but we are breathing in this nanotechnology. There is nothing when these are all spewed up in the upper atmosphere, the stratosphere. Some of them, and a lot of it's nanosensors, sensors that are feeding data into AI, artificial intelligence systems that are running various aspects of the geoengineering programs. These nanotech items, all the way from tiny pieces of aluminum, barium, strontium, all these heavy metals that are highly conductive, which, as you can imagine, coming down into an ionized atmosphere would trigger more activity, more electricity, more electrical streams by which the military can use those for operations, etc. But at the same time, those items, those tiny, tiny bits and sensors and nanobots and nanocomputers, microcomputers come down, 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 and we can't see them. They end up in our atmosphere. They come down in the rain. They come down with the snow. They come down in a clear day. You know, not very clear these days. If anyone remembers what skies used to look like in America, we used to have deep blue. We don't have deep blue anymore. We have baby blue. And there's a lot of nanoparticles in the atmosphere, and we're breathing those in. Now, we wouldn't feel them. They would go into our lungs. Some would end up in the nostrils and the sinuses. In the lungs, they would then go through into the bloodstream, and then they would slowly make their way into our organs. They will not all be gotten rid of by feces and urine and sweat, etc. No, they are programmed, many of them, to reside in the tissues and muscles of human bodies, animal bodies, plant bodies. And there they will reside, and they will be silent. People who have really good immune systems and are healthy probably won't even notice them until they are activated. And I say that not meaning to scare people. Mostly these nanobots are programmed to love electromagnetic energy. So if you live in a very hot and heavy, and and maybe in your work environment, a lot of computers, you are surrounded by electromagnetics. You may be having trouble sleeping now. You may be having chronic problems, chronic fatigue, joint problems, whatever it is. I'm not saying that that's entirely caused by these nanobots that we now have become hosts to, along with, all the bacteria and flora and fauna in our systems already. I mean, we've always had that from nature, and some of them are of very good service to us and our digestive tract, for example. But some of them we can develop parasites, worms, etc. All of these come from nature. This is the first time in possibly the entire history of humankind that we are inhaling in, and they are living in our host environment, host bodies, little machines. and that's what they are. They're, as I said, their nanos are only 1 billionth of a meter. 1 nano equals that. And nanos themselves are made of atoms laid side by side in very careful work environments. So these people are hazmat suited up because they do not want to be breathing what they're working on for good reason. But we're breathing them. Maybe in a larger environment than the work environments at nanomaterials factories, but we are breathing them. And there were no health studies, just like we've heard regarding this latest virus. No health studies whatsoever on these nanos, just like a lot of vaccines. No health studies, and the cell phones. No health studies. All of this is part and parcel of living in a nation which loves its technology more than its people. So I wanted you to know this, and that I recommend for those who are having health problems, some people may even be having outbreaks of Morgellons, and the Morgellons outbreak in the skin and the various things that are coming out of people's bodies who are subjected to these to the sores on their bodies. The Morgellons is also nanotech, and it was genetically engineered. That's been proven by the independent scientist Clifford Carnicom, and we now are involved in 5G-ing everywhere, and this may indeed be a trigger. So I'm not saying it is, but I'm thinking it probably is, in which case we may have much more activity indicating the presence of these nanobots in our bodies. So I recommend Tony Pantalaresco to people. He's a Canadian herbalist. And you can, and I'll spell his last name, Pantalaresco, Pantaleresco. Tony has spent about 10 years at the very least studying the nanotech that is in our bodies and the symptoms that the thousands of people who write into him or call him have, so that he can experiment with ways to get the nanotech out of us, to find a diet whereby they are very self-replicating. They move fast in that they are creating what Elon Musk calls his neuro. What did he call it? Neuronet. That he says you will need. That you'll need minor surgery for. Well, this could be the one for the masses. Now, I'm not saying that there will not be the neural net through surgery, but everything he says, I read very carefully, as you can imagine, and it is describing the nanotech that we have all inhaled and that is in our bodies. And I'm saying everyone. So you're going to ask me, well, what about the rich people? What about the global elite? How are they
the same air as we do?
They do, and they must have the antidotes, just as they had the antidotes to AIDS when they created AIDS. So HEPA filter systems are great. They must be able to buy the best filter systems in the world. The idea of possibly things that you can lay your body in and it incubates and kills all the nanos electrically or through like radionics. There are all kinds of things that will save us from this. And a lot of us now who know about it are working feverishly on our own symptoms and using ourselves as our own laboratories. I myself take Tony Pantalaresco's baths. He recommends baths with a cup of Epsom salts, sea salt, borax, and baking soda. And I take 2 of these baths. What happens is it becomes mildly electrolytic, and the nanoparticles, the ones who are the foot soldiers obeying the nanobots who are being remotely communicated with by what I call the laptop boys, the nanoparticulates hate alkalinity and love acidity. So, when you're looking at your diet and your lifestyle, you might want to think about that and how you're doing. You can always buy some pH paper and pee on it first thing in the morning to find out where you're at on the spectrum of acid and alkaline. So it's exciting. I would have liked to bypass this. But on the other hand, it is the time we're living in. And one of the major changes in the military, as you can see, is that it's all systems go for experimenting through the environment. Aerosols are the favorite. Electromagnetics is certainly a close favorite, and we are the guinea pigs, the American citizens. Other nations are going through this as well, some more than others, and so let's really look at how we have looked at the medical model. The medical model needs to change. I've heard a lot of doctors saying that recently, as they decide that they're leaving the medical model as it has been with just drugs and surgery, to really look more seriously at health, to look more seriously at genetically modified foods. Should we be eating them? I don't eat them. I eat them when I go out, but otherwise I eat organic. Yes, organic gardens are also receiving these fibers. You want to prove to yourself that these fibers exist, that are coming down in trillions on a daily level. Just get a little microscope, a little tiny one you can order for $6 on the internet, and take it with you when you go to the fruits and vegetables department of your favorite organic store, and you will see masses of these fibers. So this is our American military industrial intelligence complex that has decided to use us as guinea pigs, and that's the way it is. It's not new. That we've always been used. Just think of the downwinders after the nuclear bomb in New Mexico. So let's get with reality, and it's very exciting. I'm involved in 2 Facebook sites that are closed. You have to ask my permission to join. I go to your Facebook site and see if I think you're a good candidate. I'm not just interested in you learning from me. I'm interested in learning from you as well, because this is really a wonderfully, through the internet, despite the fact that we're all on watch lists and there's surveillance and all that. It's a wonderful opportunity. Say what?
You don't say.
Yeah, I do say that this is a horizontal democratic movement on the internet. We're sharing information, as fast as we can share some of it. Yes, YouTube will take it down, or Facebook will take it down. But there's always resistance. There's always resistance to those who love the truth. I tell you that from a lifetime of being a truth sayer and a truth researcher. Let's just get used to it. And it's a war. It's a spiritual warfare. And the one thing that most people don't know, and they need to know, is, 2 things. One, the geoengineering is hugely involved in probably everything that you're concerned about. 5G, you bet, it's involved in that. It's involved in all the brain research by which they can get into your brain in the smart cities. It's involved in the nanotech, all of it. And so let's just see that when the wonderful epidemiologist Rosalie Bertell wrote a book about how the Earth had been weaponized years before I wrote my books, she was right. It's just how it's gone down. And so let's all learn from each other. Have good manners with each other, realize that we're allies, helping each other to figure this out. I mean, I learned so much every book I write because I have thousands of pages of notes and articles and everything, and I have to read through everything and find the patterns, find how it all fits together so that I can present it to readers. For those people who read, most people don't read anymore at all, which is amazing to me. So we want to understand our condition and work with our condition, and sometimes work against our condition, because that's why we came. That's why we were born. That's why we're here. And we can all do that together. But I wanted you to know about the nanotech that we are ingesting, inhaling, and then there's the vaccinations. They're loaded with them too. And our precious little infants coming in, being vaccinated with nanotech for the sake of a transhumanist breed of human being that will be in part BCI, they call it, brain-computer interface, but a cyborg model. We've got to really take this seriously. It looks like science fiction. It looks scary at first. We go through periods of sadness at the beginning, but really, I have to say, the more I learn, and I've been 10 years in this, the stronger I am, and the more committed I am. So I invite people to really study something about the geoengineering. There are hundreds of videos of me and speeches and all sorts of stuff on the internet. So you can find that if you don't read. But I highly recommend that people start practicing reading again, because you can't learn everything from a video. Or a radio show. Sorry, Jeremy.
No, I have plenty of books on my shelf. Way too many of them that I'll never get a chance to read. That's just the nature of the beast. Only so many hours in the day. You catch my drift there.
Yeah.
You said you've been doing this 10 years. So, I mean, if you had a crystal ball and you could look 10 years into the future, what do you think are some of the threats, maybe on the geoengineering front and otherwise, that we're in for?
Well, the thing I didn't mention is that there was a Soviet astronomer named Nikolai Kardashev, and he came up with 3 phases of technological achievement that any civilization has to have in order to have a real space age. And the first of 3 steps is full spectrum dominance over one's planet. So you can see that's going full steam ahead right now. They are attempting to control every aspect, and I mean every human aspect: the schools, the children, disease distribution, etc. This is what's going on. The second phase that Kardashev mentioned was control over the planet's star. That would be our sun. And so there's been a lot going on with that during the solar minimum. It's all described differently, and there are a lot of cover stories. You rarely hear anything that is actually true, but there's a lot going on with our sun. And then the third step of Kardashev is control over the galaxy. Now, when you think about that, you would think, oh my gosh, who do these guys think they are? Well, for one thing, they've had a secret space program. Kennedy was assassinated. Catherine Austin Fitts is an investment analyst, and she sat down with a lawyer, and they found $21 trillion missing from the American budget. And she posited that the possibility was it had gone into the secret space program. I think she's absolutely right. And this is a real space program. And that may sound weird to you because your idea of space is from movies and, and lots of cool special effects and, Star Wars and all that. That was all pre-programming the masses. And what the secret space program means is that these people, and I would assume it's a pretty small group of people, The elite, they're elite. There's a group called the Jasons. Those are very elite scientists who have the best of the best. And certainly all the secret documents that have been saved over the ages as booty from wars and a lot of apparatus from science of the past. They have access to all that. They're very different from our university science programs. So they are serious, and they are willing to sacrifice even their own families for this. And they're certainly willing to sacrifice us, who they look at as a farm of animals to be used. So that's how I think of it. So when you ask me about 10 years in the future, I'm asking myself, how far into Kardashev's 3 phases will they be by then? As far as America will be very different than it is now. I think that you can't have a technological age of this size and this sophistication. And I've only told you the very scrapings of the top on what they've got going. And there's a lot I don't know, but let's just assume they're 50 to 100 years ahead of anything I might know. And so this will be subject to the technological era that is required for space exploration and conquest. And that's about as far as I can go. What I'm trying to do is save the human being. I don't want people to be enslaved by nanotech that can be remotely triggered to program you to be just a slave who doesn't even know they're a slave. I don't want that. So I'm fighting and speaking and writing, etc.
Alana, thank you for coming on the program tonight. Just some amazing insight. Elana Freeland, her website is elanafreeland.com. Author of Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown and Chemtrails HARP and Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. It's been a pleasure having you on the program, Elana.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks very much.
And we will talk to you, friends, next week on the program, back on Saturday night at 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, from the cold, dark depths of a secret dungeon somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest. Good night, everyone.